Our Where You At Sundays are some of my favorite Sundays every year because on these Sundays, we reflect on the past, we consider the present, and then we also look to the future. Well, I want to give us a little update in regards to the present. Pastor Brick has come today and he's given us a little update on what has happened in the past. And then in just a few moments, we're going to share some exciting things about the future. On June 11th, we shared an announcement with our church that this home is growing. And although we didn't expect it, I didn't even expect it. We shared about how God had called my wife and my family to leave New Orleans and to expand the GX network by moving to Orlando to become the lead pastor of preaching and vision for Downtown Baptist Church. Well, we have accepted that call, and on June 25th, we were voted in unanimously to become the lead pastor of this new church. And if I can just share some things, because I've got some things to share with you about the present, but on behalf of my family and I just wanted to share a couple things. Can I just say to you, Vintage Church, thank you. Thank you for your encouragement. Thank you for how you have every step, even though this has been difficult. This has been a challenge for all of us. You've been such an encouragement in our lives. And so Annabeth and I and the kids, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for the encouragement. I also want to say thank you for the unity. It has become very clear that over the last 8 to 9 years as we've planted Vintage Church, we serve Jesus. And there is a unity right now, not just around Jesus, but the mission that he's called us to. And I just want you to know, thank you. Thank you for staying focused on Jesus. As we learned this last week, look to Jesus, trust in Jesus, enjoy Jesus. You are walking testimonies and you are preaching with your lives right now. And I just want you to know, you're not just making an impact here in New Orleans, you're making it all over the globe. The world is watching how you're reacting, and I just want to say thank you. Listen, you've also supported the timeline that we have agreed to be on by allowing my family and I to stay here to the end of the year. As we have shared these things, I've requested and I've also presented to the leadership, and they've affirmed that I would help to accomplish the following goals as your lead pastor. Number one, that I would work alongside the Vintage Pastors and Vision team to call the next lead pastor and other future leaders over this summer and fall. Next, I would continue preaching and leading alongside the Vintage leadership. Next, I would help to build a stronger framework for the GX network. Next, I would transition leadership responsibilities that I have here in New Orleans to other leaders. And then lastly, I would begin to implement ministry at Downtown Baptist Church. So many things are already happening. And I'm so excited to share with you about one of those things that has already happened. As I move into 2018, I'm going to continue to serve in an advisory board way for Vintage Church here in New Orleans. And I'm also excited to continue to serve as a director of the GX network. Well, since June 11th, when we made that announcement, Pastor Matt Bricketto and I serve on the elder board of Vintage Church, and we began to work with the Vintage Church Vision team to pray about the next lead pastor of Vintage Church. I want you to know that after a number of affirmations, the Vintage Church leadership with the Vision team have affirmed the recommendation of enlisting Dr. Dustin Turner as the interim lead pastor of preaching and equipping for Vintage Church. And I am pumped up. I hope that you are too. Listen, we have had an amazing celebration with our leadership on Tuesday as we rallied our staff together, and we had a time where we prayed over Pastor Dustin and celebrated. And then on Wednesday night, our Vintage partners came together, and we had an amazing time just lifting high the name of Jesus. Listen, that was not a business meeting. That was not a formal meeting. That was a worship service celebrating Jesus. I truly believe, listen to me, this family is stronger than ever. And it sounds weird because I'm moving on. I'm not even going to be a part of this at some level here in New Orleans. But I believe the best is yet to come. Because this family is strong, because this foundation is strong, I believe that the possibilities are absolutely limitless. Now, before I invite your new interim lead pastor of preaching and equipping to come up and preach God's word. I want to share with you a few things concerning this decision. As always, I want you to know that myself and the other pastors, the other leadership, we are here for you to answer any questions that you might have. But I just wanted to share a couple reasons as to why we came to this recommendation. Number one, why do we believe in this recommendation? I want you to know, first of all, we believe that the Lord has affirmed our future vision of the Vintage Church movement. We believe because this family is strong, we're headed in the right direction. And so the family of God, this Vintage Church family, is headed in the absolute perfect place that we know we're called to go. And that's listening to Jesus and doing what he says. And he's called us to be about gospel proclamation, transformation, multiplication. We believe in this recommendation because we're going to move forward with that vision. The second thing is the Vintage family has expressed a desire for this future and for Dustin Turner. Multiple Vintage partners and people since June 11th have come and said, what about Dustin? Wouldn't Dustin be a great fit to be a candidate? And all these other different things. And so this has been so cool to see this affirmed throughout our church body, and also with our leadership. Next, I want you to know that Pastor Dustin himself has aspired to be the interim lead pastor. This is important because this is the first qualification of becoming a pastor or whatever, that there's a calling, that there's an aspiration to become. And Pastor Dustin came to us on his own accord. And one day in the office just said, man, me and Rachel have been praying, and the Lord is really calling us to consider if the church would agree to step into this position. The last thing I want you to know is that the leadership of Vintage Church has affirmed this direction. And so we're so excited as we've gone through this. The elder board, the church staff, the vision team affirm that this is the great next step for our church. Here's a second question I want you to know. Why don't we believe we need to do an external search at this time? First reason is this. We believe that we need to keep moving forward with the Vintage values, mission, and vision. And it would be very difficult for us to bring a new leader in this time and say, you have to run this play. And so we believe that Pastor Dustin is going to keep this mission moving forward. Secondly, we believe that Dustin has the spiritual leadership and qualifications to serve in this leadership role. He has the calling, he has the character, he has the competency, he has the chemistry, and he has the commitment. Thirdly, we believe that we have the appropriate personnel around Pastor Dustin Turner. He's not me, and that's an awesome thing. I'm not him. Nobody on our staff is asked to be everything. We're one body, many parts. And many of us are going to come alongside Pastor Dustin Turner, even in my role in the area of vision and praying together and partnership across 2 different cities. We're so excited. The last thing I want you to know is we believe over the next year, we need to clarify the potential and vision of the Vintage Church movement. This is going to clarify for us by putting Pastor Dustin in place, and it's going to help us continue on with this movement of what we believe, New Orleans, Orlando, and beyond. And so we're so excited to continue this. The last question I want to answer is this. Why are we going to enlist Pastor Dustin right now, July 30th? Why are we going to do this? There's a number of reasons. Number one is this. This is the number one question and concern right now for our church family. And so we believe that this is the greatest answer we can give you, is that someone that you love, that you trust, that we believe the Lord has called, and that we have affirmed to come into this role. Secondly, this is going to allow mentorship opportunity. I'm not leaving till the end of the year. And so I'm so excited to work alongside Pastor Dustin in sharing my responsibilities, passing off responsibilities, and then for also time to evolve so that we can show this transition and be smooth for our entire church. The last thing is this. We believe that this will be a great example to Vintage Church on how to transition, equip, and send out leaders for gospel multiplication at every level. Everything we do within our leadership, within our church, we want to see multiplication happen around the world. And so this is a great model for that. Now, as I close, on a personal note, I want you to know that I am super excited about this affirmation. I've written down some things here. Like, I just want you to know, Dustin, Rachel, Gabe, Emmeline are some of my favorite people in the entire world. I am super ecstatic about this. Dustin and Rachel have been around since Vintage officially began. And they have been some of our most faithful and some of our most dynamic leaders. I believe that Dr. Dustin Turner is one of the most brilliant minds. He's one of the best leaders that I've ever met. I all the time get calls from all over the country with people who are just blown away by the resources that Pastor Dustin has created to help us live the gospel, serve the city, and be the church. And I also want you to know that I've watched Pastor Dustin become an incredible pastor. I know that you would testify today that he has been vital in your life, and he has showed up pastorally in your life in some of your greatest times in life and also some of the hardest times in life. I also want you to know this. Dustin Turner is one of my best friends. And I'm so excited for him to step into this role because for me, it's a continuation of our friendship. I believe we're just going to grow even stronger and stronger together in our friendship as now our partnership becomes a multi-city friendship and partnership. And so Vintage Church, you are truly blessed to have Dr. Turner as your new interim lead pastor.